so there's been some good news. I'm going to become a full-time game developer. And so I'm going to leave my day job behind and work on some cool projects. One of those projects, at least, will be the indie game I've been working on, Focus Find. If we weren't doing this podcast, I probably wouldn't have the job. How are you doing? You still
Yeah, I'm good.
Still at Ubisoft?
Yeah. No, quit my job.
Okay. Anyway, so Forespoken.
Yeah, I quit. Yeah, I handed in my notice a couple of weeks ago.
Why would you do that?
There's genuinely a few reasons around it. The main one just being like I'm not genuinely happy with the direction of the company. Like that's kind of the big one. The majority of you obviously are decent people, but when you have a SWAT team sent to your studio by a live service gamer, you might feel a little bit different about them.
Okay.
As we absolutely did.
Have you seen this stuff about Forespoken?
Oh, the awesome dialogue, you mean?
The awesome dialogue, but then there's like lighting issues and animation issues and rigging issues.
I don't really adhere to Metacritic too often, but the game is sat at like a 65 on Metacritic right now.
Right. There's lots of remakes happening at the moment. Is it Are they remakes? Are they remasters? Are they just HD upgrades? So we're talking The Last of Us, Part 1. Dead Space has just been released, and GoldenEye as well.
To answer that question straight away, like they're all on different ends of the spectrum, right? So hi everyone, and welcome to the Polygon Forest. I am Ubisoft concept artist Vin Hill, and I'm joined as ever by, I know, like we'll get into that, by the indie developer Christopher Jarvis.
Hello.
Yeah, both of those things are soon not to be true. We'll get into that in a little bit, though. For the most part, anyway. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, long story. Anyway, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Yeah, it's going good. Well, why don't we talk about it? How are you? How are you
sure.
going?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I'll let you go through your news first,
Okay.
I guess.
Well, we're going to talk about our announcements and news, and then we're going to talk about Forspoken. Remakes like The Last of Us, Dead Space, GoldenEye, and yeah, that's what we got for today's episode, basically.
Sweet.
But yes, so there's been some good news. I'm going to become a full-time game developer.
Chris got a job.
I got a job.
Well,
with Jump Button Studio. And I'm going to be working on some cool projects. And so I'm going to leave my day job behind and work on some cool projects. And one of those projects, at least, will be the indie game I've been working on, Focus Find. So that's going to be bought, I guess, by the company. So that's kind of exciting times. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's been my secret thing that I've not been able to talk about. And now, yes, I've handed in my notice. Everyone knows what's going on. Yeah, so that's a very exciting time. That's been a long time coming, and it's been talked about for a while, and now it's actually happening. So
Sweet.
yeah, what about you?
You nervous about that, though? Like, I mean, I know it's a big jump, so
It's a big jump.
it's kind of. I mean, I've been through that bit myself, so like I understand exactly what you're going through,
Yeah.
and like the nervousness around that. But like, how are you sort of processing it at the moment? Do you feel good about it, or you're still in that nervous stage?
I feel good about it. I definitely am nervous. I just want to get into that because whenever I've started other jobs, that's been different. I've had loads of different jobs, loads of different types of jobs, been in different industries: pharmaceutical, sales, automotive, data analysis, sales.
All sound really, really fun, by
Yeah.
the way. Like, they're just exhilarating titles.
But I was like, I wonder what the people are going to be like. I wonder what the job's going to be like. I had those sort of worries. But now it's like, this is my passion. How much can I feel that passion in my day-to-day day job? Like, how much is it going to feel passionate? And for the most part, from what I've been figuring out and working with people in little bits and pieces here and there, yeah, as long as I'm working with creative people that have creative vision and are all trying to pull together in the same place, it feels really good. But then that's been the same when I've been working in other industries. So I want to get stuck in with that side of things, and I'm jumping in with both feet. It's going to be an adventure.
You're just ready to go.
I'm ready to go. I'm nervous for what I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. But I'm eager, and I'm ready, and I am fully prepared to pick up the skills that I don't have, and fully prepared to. I think I'm in a good place with my life where I'm quite self-aware of what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and I'm quite happy to take on advice and improve on things that I haven't done. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking I am at the moment.
Yeah, it's that's just generally a good sort of mindset to be in anyway, especially with this gig more than anything. Like working on games is kind of, you have to be in constant sort of problem solving mode for the most part.
Yeah.
Like one of the best experiences which I had, and I'm really glad my first gig that I ever had was at Ubisoft in Osaka, because when I went there, because that studio was so damn small, and when we were working on South Park, it's just, there was always this mentality of, hey, can you do that? And then the reply from everyone in the studio was always, no, but we'll figure it out. Like that sort of mentality. Like, I'm really glad that I had that as my first experience, because like now, like working at Ubisoft in Montreal, like you see these juniors come in and they are given very, very, very specific jobs. Mm-hmm. And they're just like hyper focused on this one thing, and they're like sort of pigeonholed into this thing. It's like your wiggle room is like ridiculously small, sort of thing, and not in a bad way either. Like you kind of need to be on a AAA level in that respect. Like there's one person that's just like coding weather, like, and that's his job, right?
Specialists,
so
specialists really pay off in AAA space, and they
absolutely
worth their weight in gold, and they're efficient. Yeah.
And you see it, like, even with the juniors, which I've worked with, they're kind of like, well, you know, I don't, like, can you work on characters? And they're just like, well, I don't really know if I can do concept art for characters. Like, I'm really good at props and environments. And they're terrified to get out of that spot. And that's like, oh, okay, that's fine. And we'll find someone else to do it, and it's not a problem. But it's like that whole mentality which I had, and which you're going to have pretty damn soon as well, which you already have got it to an extent, so it's not too much of a problem. But this whole idea of getting excited by not knowing something, almost.
Yeah, I
like that. Yeah, that is a good pocket to be in.
I do like that. Yeah, I like not knowing something. I like finishing up, learning something new, because it feels like progress. It feels like I'm going somewhere. It feels like I'm traveling in a direction. Like mastering, I've never, and I think that's because I'm like creative personality type. I know, you know, obviously in the video game industry, everyone is creative, but I've got that creative personality type where I almost hate doing things by the correct process, and phrases like, we've always done this. I hate that. And like,
don't ever go to Japan.
we do this because of this way, and I almost push back against it. I can't help it, and I am like, I'm sure there's a better way we can do this, or I'm sure there's a different program we can use, or I'm sure there's someone that can do this, and that whole mentality of I'm great at props, but I don't know about people, and I'm like, well, if you can draw a pot that's kind of round, you can draw a head. So yeah, I'm quite a creative personality type in that respect, where I like doing new things and pushing the boundaries and forging paths.
Yeah, I'm excited for you in that respect, man. Congratulations, by the way. It's a huge deal.
Thanks.
To be able to do it full time. It is a dream, and you're right. Like there is a shift, like a mental shift, which you will go through, of like, oh crap, I'm doing this. Like, this is no longer a hobby. I'm doing this full time, sort of thing. And there's this weird moment where you're working for like 6 hours in one day on the thing that you're normally only working on like in the evenings and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, I've still got 3 more hours of this, and it takes some time to like adjust to that like properly, and really get into the idea of just like, okay, be creative for like 9 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know, it's a weird shift to make, but once you're in it, it becomes a different thing, but it doesn't become a different thing and that it feels just like a job anymore. It still feels great, and it's still like you're excited to do it.
Yeah. Well, the problem I've had when I've been working on it just with a few hours here and there is flow state. It's like getting into flow state and then coming out of it. I struggle getting into flow state, but then sometimes it happens within about 15 minutes, and then I'm in the flow state for like 45 minutes, and then I have to stop because I have to either do the washing or get some shopping or take care of my kid or go pick someone up. And that ending and being abrupted, like come to an abrupt stop, I'm like, I could have so gone on and done so many more hours. And now I'm foreseeing this problem where I'll have that flow state and then I'll have like a meeting or something, and then or I'll get bored and I'll come to the end of that natural flow state, and I'll be like, kind of getting bored of this now, but yeah, like what you said, I've still got like, oh, I guess it's still a few hours till lunch. But that flow state session has ended, and I don't want to do any more coding. It's kind of boring. I want to do something else. So yeah, I'm totally expecting.
You'll find. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, I'm never going to give you advice on that sort of stuff, because like you'll find your own tricks to get in and out of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like because I know how I have to ramp up into stuff in the morning and things like that, and like how my first few hours look compared to my last few hours are just vastly different. But you'll figure that out in time. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. But yeah, no, it's exciting, man. Like, it's really, really cool. It's cool to see people being able to like shift out from just like it being a passion to it actually dictating their lives a little bit. So it's kind of, yeah, it's a great next step.
Well, and it's kind of, I don't want to say partly. If we weren't doing this podcast, I probably wouldn't have the job.
Right, because the person that's greenlit you basically is
listens to the
discovered
podcast.
This game right through the podcast.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the podcast was your idea as well, so
yeah. So that's kind of weird.
Self-fulfilling in that respect.
Yeah. So that's kind of weird. That's like hobby meets career in this weird thing.
So that's our advice to everyone listening: is start a podcast. You know, you'll get your dream job within a year, apparently, because that's that's the deal.
Yeah. It works.
Yeah. That's a weird way to break into the industry, isn't it?
Yeah. It feels like
that's
cheating.
A story for the grandkids.
It totally feels like cheating. I haven't. Well.
Yeah, same thing happened with me with the Assassin's Creed stuff. Like, it was just the Assassin's Creed Japan stuff. Like, it was just felt weird.
Yeah, because you tried for like, was it a year before the Assassin's Creed thing?
Yeah, it's not. It's just not a normal way to break into the industry, right? Like, I got in through some fan art. You got in through a podcast. Weird industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to break in for like 2 years before the Assassin's Creed Japan stuff.
Wow.
2 years, like after we finished uni. We graduated in 2012.
Yeah.
2013. Yeah, it was 2012.
It was 2012.
Yeah, we graduated in 2012. I didn't break in until January of 2015. So it was almost 3 years.
Wow.
It's 2.5 years of me just trying to break in.
Yeah.
Just relentlessly.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I guess for me, it's been since 2012. Although, actually, that's not true, because I kind of did.
You've had gigs. Like, you were at Sony Cambridge.
I was at Sony Cambridge, but then I didn't do games for like a good decade after that.
Well, yeah, you thought T-shirts would be a good idea, and that worked out great.
Yeah, novelty T-shirts. I thought, yes, this is what I want to do.
That is the way. That is the way forward.
Oh, God.
And now you're making indie games.
And now... Oh, damn. Oh, no. What have I done?
We're going to have to stop calling you like the indie developer at this point.
Developer.
Because
I'll just be game dev.
Yeah, game dev. Chris Jarvis, I guess.
Is this Jump Out Studios an independent studio, I guess? So will I still be an indie dev?
Yeah, it's like I've always had this problem with when people call themselves indie. It's like whenever someone's published by Devolver Digital and they call themselves indie, it's like, are you really? Are you actually indie dependent?
Yeah.
No, you're really not. Like, you're published by like a pretty decent publisher. Like, if you're having conferences at E3 as a publisher, you're not an indie. You're not an indie.
You're an industry studio.
Yeah, because technically Microsoft and Xbox are indie, if we're putting it in those terms, you know what I mean? They're independent, right? They self-fund.
Actually, that's true. Yeah, I suppose.
It's stupid.
They aren't owned by anyone else other than Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, unless like if you're listening to this and you've actually got like a solid answer to what defines an indie, like, I'd love to hear it, because I've heard conflicting things over the years. So please leave a comment and let me know. Because
I think it's all about context, isn't it? Really, I think it's just context. It's a word that means something, but
yeah, if you're publicly funded, maybe like if someone can like invest into your company, like, are you then no longer independent? But if you're self-sufficient, as in like you're not on the investment market or whatever, like if you can't buy stocks in your company, are you technically independent? Like, I don't know what defines it at this point. It's kind of, it's more of like a gamer expression. It's the same thing with like AA and AAA, right? They're really ambiguous sort of titles, but I don't genuinely know what they mean anymore. But God knows.
Yeah, it seems to be like indie. It seems to be the size of the game. So it's like indie game, AA game, AAA game. That seems to be the the three.
I've always defined AAA by the money in, not really the money out. But there are some games that sort of circumvent that. I mean, look at Among Us and Fortnite and Minecraft, right? They were technically all indie games. Like, they all were independently funded.
Yeah.
But they became quadruple A because of like,
the amount of sales that
they had.
Made. Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, I genuinely don't understand it. We need to redefine it at some point in the industry because it's very, very confusing.
Yeah.
Especially with like how many indies are not actually independent. But yeah, funny old world.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
That is weird. Okay. How about you, Vin? How are you doing? You still
Yeah, I'm good.
Still at Ubisoft?
Yeah. No, quit my job.
Okay. Anyway, so Forespoken.
Yeah, I quit. Yeah, I handed in my notice a couple of weeks ago.
Why would you do that?
Because there's genuinely a few reasons around it. The main one just being like I'm not genuinely happy with the direction of the company. Like, that's kind of the big one. I think a lot of developers feel the same way. There's no secret to what's actually going on at the company. It's not really anything to do with any of the issues that we had in like 2021 of like the scandals and stuff, because I kind of feel like that was blown out of proportion for the most part. All of that sort of stuff. Like, there was other companies that did much worse that were sort of just they're okay because they make good games.
Yeah.
You know, but Ubisoft were an easy target, so everyone was sort of attacking us. But just like the direction of the games, basically, I'm not really happy with what we're making anymore, sort of thing. Like the incessant need to try and find a new live service game is kind of what's driven me, like, over the last couple of years to really look for different avenues.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really a fan of live service games. I don't like making them. I don't like playing them. I don't like what they encourage within our industry. I just don't like the gamers that play those as well are just sort of not the best people in the world. Like, no offense if you're a live service gamer, like that's all good and well. Like, the majority of you obviously are decent people, but when you have a SWAT team sent to your studio by a live service gamer, you might feel a little bit different about them.
Okay.
Because we absolutely did.
Right. So it's like most of them are fine, but the ones that aren't fine are the ones that do swatting.
Yeah. They're the ones that send death threats. Like, I've gotten messages off people online complaining about Ubisoft. Like, I've had to take Ubisoft out of my bio a couple of times, things like that. Any other company, I wouldn't have had any of these problems. And at first, like, I was okay with that sort of stuff because, like, you know what, like, we'll put out the games and like we'll prove them wrong, sort of thing. But over the years, like, I've sort of seen that people like Yves Guillemot he's just not. I don't know. He can't see the wood through the trees. I kind of feel like he doesn't. I don't really feel like he cares.
Feel like chasing
too
money,
much.
chasing where the next cash cow's coming from.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a personal opinion. I've got no insight in this whatsoever. But my opinion is that it kind of feels like Eve has just been trying to sell the company. That's the impression I get more than anything. Like, he's just trying to find an avenue to get the company sold, but he's probably having a damn hard time with that purely because of the nature of what Ubisoft is, which is, like, you're looking at 20 to 25,000 developers worldwide across a lot of studios worldwide.
Yeah.
A lot of support studios are set up for other studios. So there's, like, the studio in Singapore supports the Montreal studio, and the Osaka studio in Japan supports the San Francisco studio. And there's a lot of, like, little like studios like that support other studios around the world, and like, we're all working in conjunction. Like, Assassin's Creed is getting worked on 24 hours a day pretty much, right? Because it just, as like one person stops working, another studio starts working, then another one takes over, and it's just this constant cycle. Like, Assassin's Creed is getting worked on 24 hours a day by like 1,000 developers at any one time.
Wow. Across multiple different games.
Yeah. So if you're trying to sell that, like, you've got to take a step back. So if you're Microsoft and you bought Ubisoft, you'd be like, all right, we've got to cut this company in half straight away, because a lot of these games are not going to fit like our business model, what we're going for.
But you can't
because we're not
package
after
up
live service games.
something to sell to someone for something, because they're all intertwined.
So I don't think anyone's going to buy it, unless you're like a Tencent or something. But even then, it's huge financial risk. And the second that you buy Ubisoft, you become the bad guy because you have to start firing people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of.
Well, you say
like,
you have to fire people. Could they keep people and still make a profit and just change the direction? No. Is it too big?
Because
like a big ship?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, if you come into a new publisher, and you have your own ideas about what that publisher should be, you're going to make changes, and those changes just inherently mean that you're gonna cancel projects, and if you cancel projects, like, have they got anything else to ramp onto? If they don't, then we're gonna have to start cutting people, because we can't just have people sat around taking up money, especially when we just bought this company for, like, I don't know, a lot of millions of dollars, a lot of billions even. So you gotta look at that and understand that that's probably why nobody's bought Ubisoft. So that being the case, the fallback plan now is, let's just bleed the company for every penny that they've got until we come across a live service game. And I just do not agree with that mindset. I genuinely believe that we need to take a step back and really make some games that gamers really love, and and get back into the good graces of gamers. So then we can start, like, building the momentum of a live service game. But we've been trying to ignore that for far too long, and we're kind of all in on that at this point, and it's a bit. I just don't agree with it. I don't think it's a good direction for the company. I've seen a lot of people leave over the past sort of few years, and yeah, it's kind of hit the point now where I'm kind of like, I really don't feel great about being here. There's been other external factors as well, like Canada and the government around that and stuff. Like, I'm not going to get into, like, the Quebec government and stuff and how they sort of handle foreigners that don't speak French. It's a whole thing, but that contributed to it, and just stability and stuff. But other job opportunities around me as well have come up, and that I've turned down in the past, or, like, other sort of opportunities which I could have taken. But there's other ones in the pipe right now, which probably won't be talking about today. Like, we will get into that at some point. Yeah. Probably in the next couple of weeks, I'm sure. But yeah, like, ultimately the reason why I left Ubisoft, though, is the direction of the company in terms of, like, the games that we're actually making. I'm just not, like, I joined the company to make great action adventure games, basically, and we're now turned into this,
live service studio.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. I just don't get it. Like, I mean, I get it from a business standpoint. We're trying to make money and stuff. I get it.
Yeah,
I really do understand it. I don't inherently even disagree with it to an extent. I just don't believe that we should be doing it, like, looking for that opportunity in every single game that we make. Like, I don't believe in that. It's that side of it, which is, like, we should be just making single player Assassin's Creed games. We should just be making, like, decent Far Cry games and things like Rayman and things like that, and then in between finding a good opportunity to make a really good live service game and put our whole heart into it.
Yeah.
That's what I believe, instead of, like, trying to inject live services into absolutely everything that we've already got.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. I don't think it's a good method. I don't think the gamers that we're attracting are, like, that great for the most part in that respect. Like, no offense to the live service gamers, again, like, the vast majority of you guys are great, and you have fun, and you're a huge community and stuff, and, like, live streaming on Twitch and all that sort of stuff. Like, I get it, but it's unfortunately, like, the bad batch of those people are the ones that sort of ruin it for everyone else, and I just don't. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
That's a shame.
Sad times.
Yeah,
but I mean, I've been at Ubisoft for 7 years, worked on a lot of different games like Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Rainbow Six, South Park, Disney games, like even Gravity Falls back in the day was one of the first games I worked on. But yeah, worked as concept artist, illustrator. Like, I worked in the marketing department for a while.
Yeah.
Weird turn of events, but, like, even getting offered, like, higher positions just before I left and stuff like that, and turn them down just because ultimately I just don't believe in the sort of direction of the company. Because when I first started, I was excited about Assassin's Creed. I was excited about Watch Dogs. I was excited about all these things that we were doing.
Yeah.
But now it's just, there's really not any projects in the company that I'm super excited about. Like, the last one that I just worked on was really fun, and the world that we were building, like the art team and stuff, super interesting, really, really interesting. But then you start seeing the dailies come back and how they're talking about, like, what you're actually going to be doing in the game. It's kind of like,
kind of gross.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of gross. I don't like this. Like, this isn't why I got into the industry. So yeah, and so now I'm just focusing on indie, basically. Like, I'm going to be working on Long Gone a lot more, which is great. I'm really excited to just knock that game out and have a lot of fun with that. But there's a lot of other stuff in the pipe, which we will be talking about. Some really, really exciting stuff. But yeah, lots of weird news, I guess.
Lots of weird news.
But it's good. Like I'm feeling good about the move. I'm not like just quitting and being like, no, screw this.
It's been a long time.
I'm sat there twiddling my thumbs. Yeah, it's been a decision that's been going on for a long time. And again, I'm not bitter about it or anything like that. It's not like I'm no hard feelings to the people that work at Ubisoft, because at the end of the day, honestly, the people I've worked with on a daily basis, some of the best people in the world that I've ever worked with, like really, really great people. Because the developers on the lower levels and even the management, people like the art directors and stuff like that I've worked with, had the pleasure to work with, absolutely amazing people. Like they know what's up. Like they're just as annoyed as everyone else. But it's the people at the very top, people like Eve, the editor suite of people, like the people that are actually greenlighting these games, the people that are like making these high level decisions. They're the problem, because that's filtering down, and I think that's honestly why we've lost a lot of developers, a lot of senior developers over the past sort of couple of years, more than anything. It's just because of the really bad decisions, and unfortunately, I am now one of them. So that's all.
That's interesting. So Ubisoft could. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what this Ubisoft looks like with live service in part of every game.
It could work out, you know what I mean? Like financially, it could really work out. Like they might hit something eventually, because they've got some stuff which is just like, this could be big. Like it could be really, really huge. Like they've got some ideas that are in the system right now, which kind of like, yeah, that could really kick off and do really, really well. And the company could do like really well off the back of this. But then I take a step back from that. I'm like, okay, money aside, do I want to be a part of that? And the answer was no. Eventually, that was kind of what I got to. And it was always, like, the interesting thing about Montreal and Ubisoft in general is that because they've got so many different IPs and so many different projects, if you don't agree with one project, there's usually another one to jump onto. You know, like if you're just there, like, I'm not really feeling it.
You can go and go from one thing to another. Yeah,
and that's why, like, I've been at Ubisoft for Montreal for about 4 years now. In house, I've been at the studio for 4.5 years. In that 4.5 years, I've worked on a lot of different projects, and I'm very blessed for that. The fact that I can work on 2 Assassin's Creed games, a Far Cry game, a Rainbow game, and a Watch Dogs, you know, and that's before like all the illustration stuff I've done for like key art and stuff on different projects, like the Division and stuff like that, right? So like all of that, the fact that I've got all these projects under my belt now, just purely because of the nature of what concept art is amazing. It's great, but ultimately it's gotten to that point now where I've kind of looked at the suite of all the games, and the one that I was on, again, super interesting, really happy to work on it. Great art director, great team to work with, but you're just kind of sat there thinking, okay, when does this turn into that live service thing? Because it's end of day now, and you start seeing the echoes of it and start seeing the hints of it, and you're kind of like, yeah, not really feeling this.
Yeah.
So where am I going to jump off to? And then you look around you and it's like, there's a lot of other games that are in this same boat. Like there's not really much left that isn't tackling things like this anymore. Yeah. And it's the nature of third parties, don't get me wrong. Like it's third party studios. Like if you're a Sony or an Xbox or a Microsoft, you can have a little bit more liberty about not putting live service stuff in the game. That's why Ghost of Tsushima is so great. Yeah. It's because they didn't have to put any live services in it, because they support their income through hardware sales, right? Yeah. Like they're trying to sell hardware and get that percentage for every game that's published onto the PlayStation Store. Yeah. So you can offset those costs by not having live services and just like make a great single player game. Ubisoft can't afford to do that because they still have to pay 30% to whatever platform they're doing to, and games, for lack of a better term, like they cost $60 to $70 in the US, where really they probably should be about 100 at this point. It's just because of like inflation and things like that. But we, like, gamers are very outspoken about that sort of stuff, which is absolutely fine. Like I agree with it, and we're going to be talking about that in a little bit, especially with remakes and stuff. But for the most part, it's kind of like there's this weird balance that has to happen with a third party. That's why they get so much flack. That's why everyone hates Ubisoft, apparently. That's why everyone hates EA, apparently, because they have to put these services into their games that nobody really likes and really agrees with. That's why I think something like Call of Duty, if Activision Blizzard does go through with Microsoft, I think that's going to be a great thing, purely because it takes all the live services out of all of the Activision games eventually, because like they'll have other revenue streams coming in. So it'll be I think it'll be a better game for it, for the most part. Yeah. So it's kind of it'll be an interesting sort of thing. But yeah, I just ultimately like being at a third party. I'd be super interested to be at a first party one day. That'd be a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
But,
and
for the most part,
you know,
it's just nuts.
When we started this podcast as well, one of the big reasons I wanted to start a podcast is because you were, Ubisoft concept artist. I thought that everyone would get all the comments like, I think it's so cool that you're doing a podcast with an Ubisoft concept artist. And those comments never came in this sort of year and a bit we're doing this podcast. So
I knew they wouldn't. Yeah.
So I'm fine with you leaving.
I mean, I said that to you at the time as well.
I'm fine with you leaving. It's absolutely fine. So it doesn't affect the podcast.
You know what, Chris? I'm glad I got your blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much I can go into it. I mean, it's kind of cut and dry, like the reason why. There are some nuances in the background, which I'm not going to talk about, but for the most part, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the people I work with. The projects that I did work on, I had a great time working on them. Yeah. It's just the end products when they actually come out is kind of like, this isn't anything that anyone's ever going to love. Like, Ubisoft are just completely ignored at this point, which I don't blame them at the same time. Like, I'm not saying they deserve to be seen. I hope that there was a bit more consistency in the industry in terms of like the stuff that people tolerate for other companies they don't tolerate for us, and vice versa.
It's actually a seismic shift, really, if you think about it. It because to me, part of the soul of Ubisoft was single player campaign games. That's what their bread and butter was.
Yep.
And it seems now they're adding this element which is the opposite of single player campaign game, live service element into every single game that they're doing.
Yeah.
It's moving in a new direction, and so it's bold, but it's weird that we saw articles where they're like, we understand that a shorter single player campaign for Assassin's Creed is what people wanted because the last few games were just too long, and not as chiseled as they could be as an experience. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a fine line because like people complain about Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed is like the forefront of all of this, right? Because people complain about Assassins. It's too big. There's too much live service injected into it. Like, nobody likes it. But then you look at the sales, and there's like
lots of
30,000 in sales. Like, a lot of people buy that game, right? Versus like the 10 million that bought like the old single player games. So it's like, money speaks at the end of the day. That's why they're making them, is because you guys keep fucking buying them. That's why.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, very simple, guys. Like, stop buying it and they will stop making it. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there is just like that. The biggest section of the industry right now, like in terms of gamers, are the live service gamers. So they're the ones that are buying this sort of stuff, and it just sort of leaves what might be, like, I'm not sure if this is even true, but like the older generation, like us, like the people that are 35 plus, and they're sort of more interested in the more single player catered experiences, and we're sort of being left in the dust.
We're like the old people.
Yeah, we're the old breed, I guess, which is fine. Like, like the games industry isn't ours. Like, we don't own it.
Evolving.
Yeah, so it's always going to be catered towards like the younger generation, which makes sense. Absolutely, I would too, if I was a huge AAA company. But at the same time, it's kind of like, it'd be nice if you did keep some of that for us. You know what I mean? And not just like the odd bone, like, oh, here's Assassin's Creed Mirage, like, shut up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, really? That's the best that you got? Like, after this company that won Game of the Year for Prince of Persia and put out great games like Splinter Cell and Rayman and, the original Assassin's Creed and things like this. It's
Splinter
like,
Cell,
really? That's from you guys? Like, that's what you're going to do now? Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Strange. Really strange.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what comes out of it, and it'd be interesting to see what you go on to. I'm sure you can talk in the next few months, but probably a month or so. There's a
lot of stuff happening right now. Just to give a little bit of insight to close this sort of stuff out, like, I'm sort of in between visas at the moment. Like, I know anyone that's been through the visa system is just, it's painful. Like, it's like giving birth to a golf ball. It's not very fun. So it's like, I just don't. It's like pissing golf balls, is what I should say.
Okay.
That's the old expression, not giving birth to a golf ball. That'd be kind of easy for a woman, I'm guessing.
For a woman, I guess.
I'm just going to stop talking. But yeah.
Doing something weird with like a golf ball.
Yeah, so it's stuff with golf balls. But yeah, it's like pissing golf balls, basically. That's the expression I was supposed to be going for.
Okay.
Don't ever go through like a visa system with the US or Canada or anyone, just don't.
Just don't
like,
do it.
Stay where you are.
Stay
just
where you are.
Stay there. You're fine. Like, it's not that great on the other side, I promise. Just stay where you are. But yeah, I'm going through that at the moment. So that's
okay.
Anyone that's like used to like normal background stuff, like I'm in a hotel right now.
With terrible internet.
There's a good reason for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's affected our podcast. You know, I've had to change the way we're going to edit this episode.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. I apologize. I'll try and fix it just for you, buddy.
So if these are people listening, if you could get a move on, because it's affecting my editing time. Okay, that's probably a good place to draw a line there. Yeah. So you've been warned, these are people.
Indeed.
Have you seen this stuff about Forespoken, the fallout over the game?
Oh, the awesome dialogue, you mean?
The awesome dialogue, but then there's like lighting issues and animation issues and rigging issues and pacing issues. I've seen different articles and different people tweeting about almost everything. Actually, tell a lie. The scenery and everything is widely regarded as being really beautiful and looks amazing. Some of the internal spaces or where there's people, the lighting seems to be messing up. The landscapes are great, and the music apparently is really good. So there are some things that stand out for that game that's widely praised. But yeah, there's been dialogue issue. I've seen some janky-looking screenshots. I've seen some dialogue which, out of context, sounds unpleasing. What's your view?
Yeah, it just looks like a bad game, basically. I think that's the consensus that I've sort of come to. I mean, I don't really adhere to Metacritic too often, but the game is sat at like a 65 on Metacritic right now.
Right.
So it's kind of, you can't ignore that. Like, it just sounds like a bad game for the most part.
Yeah. Metacritic at 66 is telling you something. Yeah. Might not necessarily.
I mean, I've read a couple of reviews.
Yeah.
And the thing that they keep coming back to, like, scores aside, like, I try not to look at scores as much as possible. Like, I like to read the reviews and actually see what people are actually saying about it. But the consistent thing that keeps coming up is like it feels like a game from 2012.
Oh, okay.
It just doesn't feel like a modern game whatsoever. It feels like someone was told about this game 10 years ago and they've been sat in like an echo chamber sort of thing, just tic-tacking away and making this thing for 10 years.
Yeah.
So what it feels like. So that being the case, like, yeah, I get it. But for the most part, it will find a fan base, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I was really looking forward to this game, but after seeing the reviews and reading some reviews on it and stuff, like, it's like, it's not going to be as great as I thought it was. And I think a lot of that pushback has come from what's at the forefront of that, which is the presentation of things like the dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that people are speaking about. Like, the word cringe comes up a lot. Like, I'm not really...
It looks dated.
Not really a fan of that word.
It does remind me of people. There's been some comparisons, both for and against why it's good or bad, that it's like Uncharted, and it's like, yeah, that's true, but Uncharted is dated, and Uncharted improved over time, and it's like an Uncharted 1 dialogue, where it's like that doesn't sit within the context of where Nathan Drake is in an environment, and it's odd pacing, but then it got better, and he was an idiot, and you know, he leaned into that, his character, but his quips better suited the story and the environment, and there was more nuance as the series went on. Whereas this seems to be like the villagers don't really care about their impending doom, but they're worried about like getting their sheep in order and all this sort of stuff. Like, there's that. There's that going on, and the woman doesn't seem that bothered that she's trapped in another dimension.
Oh, why would you be? It's Portal Fantasy,
because she's got a magical cuff that can do her magical spells, and she seems to be called Cuff.
Yeah, honestly, I think a lot of this comes down from the fact that we've got to take a step back and look at development stuff on this, right? Like, it's developed by Square Enix, which is a Japanese company making an American-styled game for the most part. Like, you've got a girl that's like originally from New York, and she has. And it's very like Final Fantasy-esque in that respect, in terms of how she interacts with people and stuff. And so you're basically trying to translate Japanese mannerisms into a Western character, pretty much, which is fine, like, if you're a Japanese audience and stuff. And the thing is, like, if you look it up online, Japanese fans aren't as, like, they're not complaining about the dialogue whatsoever.
It's very typical.
It's fine. Yeah. It's very part of the course. Yeah. It's fine. I looked up a few reviews, and like, people seem to be like, they have problems with the gameplay, but nothing to do with the character. So I think a lot of it is down to just bad translation more than anything. So it could just be like the fault of like a couple of people, basically, like the people that translated the game out, or maybe they just had such a hard time with it, because if you've got to, sometimes it's almost impossible to translate these things any other way.
I was going to say, yeah, there could be issues where it's like, there's no way we can translate this, but this is a story beat for a joke, but nothing fits in a Western audience that's going to land. So, and then like just make it work, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and Japanese is very, very different in that respect. Like sometimes they'll say things where we just leave a blank, and vice versa, and stuff like that. Or they overemphasize certain things which aren't as important in English. Just small things like that, and that's before like you can translate stuff like nuances wise, like because you don't translate everything one to one, obviously. But for the most part, like you're always going to have a problem with that. But I think a lot of it has come from if you've got a Japanese writer, for example, that is interpreting a Western culture, then the writing is always going to be flawed from the origin, no matter what you do. I'm not even sure if that's true. Maybe they had a Western writer on this, and I'm completely off base here. If that's the case, then I apologize. But just going off assumptions for a moment, based on other like Western games I've seen from Japan, and vice versa as well. The same thing happens all the time. Like with Ghost of Tsushima, I'm sure like there's some cringy ass dialogue in that game.
If you're Japanese,
which Japanese people are just like,
oh, that doesn't work.
We would never say that.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? Yeah. Like, why isn't he bowing there and stuff like that? Like there's stuff like that. So like it works absolutely both ways. And if you're a Japanese audience, like Ghost of Tsushima to a Westerner is like, this is dope. Like, this is sick. This is everything that I want. Whereas Japanese person's like, oh, that's really rude. Like, why didn't he bow there?
Yeah,
like,
they've all met, but they didn't all bow for 5 minutes. What's going on?
Right. Like, why isn't she offering him tea? Like, I don't understand.
Ah, yeah.
It's stuff like that. Right. It's just small things, little bits. But
if it was in England
kind of seeing
and
the
someone
opposite.
walked in, it's like, it's been 2 sentences and the
right.
tea has not been offered.
Do you want a cuppa? Do you want
a cup of tea? Like, but that wasn't the first thing that was said. You've started bringing up a topic of conversation before tea was offered. Whoa. Yeah, I get that. I heard one criticism that was like, it sounded like that the cuff dialogue wasn't recorded with the protagonist dialogue, and that it sounded like they were reading lines and didn't hear what the reaction was, and that can add to it as well. Which
there was stuff like the main character swears too much, just like unnecessarily. Like she just curses all the time, which is fine if it flows well. I'm not against swearing or anything. Like, to go for it. You know what I mean? Like if it works.
Flipping
like
egg.
If you're trying to emphasize a certain flipping egg. Yeah.
You're flipping cares, man.
Oh, sugar. Shut the fridge and stuff like that. Yeah, you gotta love that stuff. Like, and it's fine. Like anyone that says like, swearing is the lowest form of wit is. They're full of shit, to be blunt. It's kind of
prude.
Like they've got no idea what they're talking about. But yeah, like apparently she just like swears randomly, just like that wasn't natural whatsoever.
Right.
Which again, it might come from the Japanese writing, because newsflash, there's no swearing in Japanese. There's no like inherently like bad words. They'll say things which are negative, which are bad. Like instead of saying like "f you," they'll say "go die." Like they'll say "shine" instead, which means just go die. But like "to die" is not inherently like a swear word. It's a bad sentence, which is negative. But they've got no like unique sort of swear words that they can sort of use one to one. So when they say things like the universal known one, which is baka, which is like idiot sort of thing, right? You're an idiot sort of thing. But depending on context, they'll translate that in different ways, depending on the anime or depending on the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll say moron, sometimes they'll say idiot.
And you got a paintbrush of plethora of colours to choose from with the English language with swear
especially
words.
with English, the British English.
Yeah.
I mean, the sheer colossal list of ways to call someone an idiot in British is just. It makes me proud. That's all. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful language.
It's a very beautiful language. But yeah, like inherently, like you can't translate that. So if she's saying things like baka over and over and over again, like in the original script, which she might well be.
Then it just
like there's like baka and
weird
stuff like that.
Makes this weird thing that happens where the character's swearing out of context. Yeah, I can understand how that could work.
Like I get it for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
excuses aside, though. Apparently, the game just looks bad, though.
Yeah, it looks bad. I've seen some gameplay and it looks bad. And other things like pacing, like you don't get to use magical spells until like a third of the way through the game, and then you don't get to use like some specific magical spells which look amazing and probably went far away into selling the game to people pick it up until like the last quarter of the game. Like, and again, that people were like, they should have brought in the spells and then just upped the potency of the spell a bit more early, you know, towards the end of the game, so that you had more spells earlier on. There was people that seemed to agree with that. So it sounds like there was some, and again, that might be the West's interpretation of what game progression is agreed upon would look like, and they might have been trying to do something, you know, artistic.
Yeah, I think you're on something there, but it's like, take it a step further. I think it's Japanese interpretation of what Western game progression looks like. So like it's kind of like us trying to make like a Japanese JRPG, right? Like,
we're never going to nail it.
Okay,
yeah.
What would the Japanese people like? Like, we're not going to fucking know.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to know whatsoever. Like, why would we know? Like, we don't know what the hell we're talking about. And rightfully so. Like, that's why you get consultants in and stuff. It just sounds like they just didn't get enough people to really diagnose this. Because again, Japanese games development companies, they're very compartmentalized and they have very strict hierarchies and stuff, and what the boss says goes, sorts of things, like seniority and stuff like that. It's very, very ingrained into that culture.
Right.
Not always in a good way. Sometimes it works out really, really well, but for the most part, like it can bring its problems. To me, it just sounds like this game just didn't have enough time, didn't have enough consultancy to actually like understand what a Western audience would want, because that's exactly what they were trying to make. They were trying to, like, people are saying like, it's a Japanese game. It's like, it's inherently not. Like, it's made by Japanese people, but it's for a Western audience.
Make it with Western protagonists and
exactly.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have been in New York. No. She would have been in Tokyo. Like stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, it just seems like this game is just a bag of miscommunication.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's kind of what I take away from it more than anything.
For me, it looks like the comedy is based towards or aimed at those teen comedies, like, you know, where they've got the laugh tracks and they'll say things in a zany way and that will get a laugh track. It seems like
Spider-Man. Honestly, it feels like Square Enix were all sat around and they all played Spider-Man, the new Marvel Spider-Man, 2018 Spider-Man. They all played that, and they're just like, we need to make a game just like that.
Right.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the quips of Peter Parker,
but
and
without
like that,
all of the background of Peter Parker's back history to right. I see. So they're just trying to cookie cut Spider-Man dialogue with no backstory of this Western protagonist, and then it's just,
that's what it feels
clunky.
Like.
I get that. Yeah.
Because like, if you think about it, like if you'd never heard of Spider-Man and someone gave you this game, it's like, why is he in a red suit? Like, why does he keep talking to himself like this? And like, like everything that he says is really annoying. Like, what's with like these?
Why is he trying to make jokes? Yeah.
So you have a lot of like pre-knowledge and sort of forgiveness for something like Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
But for something like Forespoken, it's kind of like, that's exactly the model, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got like all these weird quips, and you got like this, like, okay, who the hell's Cuff? Like, why does this girl come from New York and she's in this weird magical land? Like, we're in that boat.
Yeah. And what's caused that relationship between the Cuff and the protagonist? Like, there doesn't seem to be a reason that she just starts talking down to him for some reason, and he starts being bitchy to her for some reason, and there doesn't seem to be any.
And it's no progression like in the character.
Doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, interesting. But then again, you know what I'm saying? Why does it need to be realist? You know, just that's why I'm like, it seems like it's meant for a teen. Like
well, this is the thing.
teenagers.
Like, to sort of cap this whole discussion off, is it's kind of like the point of the game is for someone to enjoy, and if someone's enjoying it, which there seems to be plenty of people that are.
Yeah, then fine.
Well, power to you. Great, awesome, glad you're loving it.
Yeah.
Like, that's absolutely great. That's fine. But like, in terms of like the mass market and stuff, like, it seems like the sort of consensus is it's just a bad.
You're never going to get anyone to get the marketing team to be like, by the way, we're going to play this trailer and that it's going to look AAA, but it's going to be for people that like iCarly or like teen comedy. You know, it's not mainstream. You know, it's going to get 66 on Metacritic, we think. You know, that's never going to be in the adverts, is it? Because the adverts looked like it was going to be the next AAA. You know, clear your calendar.
It looked like another Spider-Man game.
Yeah.
It looked like it could have been great.
Yeah.
And the framework for it was there. Like, they absolutely
Yes.
could have made a great game out of it.
Yes.
And that's why PlayStation invested in it. That's why PlayStation made it exclusive.
Yes.
I bet they're kicking themselves now. But
Yeah.
it's like, that's why because they saw the vision of it and they're like, yes, that looks awesome.
And I'm sure looking at the this vertical slice. There's everything's geared up for it to be smash hit.
Yeah.
Just execution. Just goes to show how well you need to execute on those things.
Just make good games. That's it.
Make good games.
Super easy.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it better next time, and then it'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Speaking of people making games, and doing it well, there's lots of remakes happening at the moment. Is it Are they remakes? Are they remasters? Are they just HD upgrades? So we're talking The Last of Us, Part 1, Dead Space has just been released, and GoldenEye as well. So
they're all to answer that question straight away. Like, they're all on different ends of the spectrum, right? So Dead Space is a full remake that just came out, getting very, very good ratings, 9 out of 10s. Well played to them. It looks great. You got GoldenEye, which is literally just a port of the original, because that game's probably in license in hell right now in terms of who actually has licensing agreement. I think there's multiple companies that have got hold of the licensing on that game,
right?
So they've got to be. So if they get anything through the door, it's going to be
MGM. We'll have to say, and
I can't even imagine, man.
And it's got to be Pierce Brosnan as well, because it's his likeness, probably, and the actors involved because it's their likeness. Interesting.
Yeah. Just make a Silver Eye game, which is like a spiritual successor, and just take all the level. I don't know. Anyway, but make it good. You could absolutely do that.
Platinum Eye. You wouldn't go backwards.
Platinum Eye. Touche. That's fair. And then there's The Last of Us, which is this weird sort of. It's not quite a remaster.
It's an HD.
It's not quite a remake.
Grade with some cookie. I don't want to say cookie cutter, with some ported over. Award-winning accessibility options.
Oh, without a doubt. Like, I'm not saying these games aren't good. Obviously, The Last of Us Part 1 is an incredible game.
Yeah.
But inherently, the problem which I have with these games are the prices.
The pricing. So it seems like the pricing is the same. Like, they just... I don't know, actually, saying that, I don't know how much GoldenEye is.
GoldenEye is actually not a price whatsoever. I don't actually think you can own it. So GoldenEye is a funny one, because... you can only access it through either the Nintendo online service, which is a paid subscription service, or you can get it through if you bought a game called Retro Replay, which is the rare Retro Replay sort of compilation thing that you've got. And if you've got a digital version of that game, then you can download GoldenEye on the Xbox for free. So I think what they're trying to do is, comes from like the license and things, right? Like, I'm pretty sure the licensing dictates that nobody can like physically own the game. So it's all done through, like, even you as the gamer have to go through a license. So it's kind of like the perpetual licensing of this game, right? It's all over the place. So like that one's a bit funny. It just looks like a bad port though in terms of everything else. Like, it runs at like 30 FPS. It has all the problems of the original, which should be solved, like the Z fighting on textures and stuff, like, and this, you can see the seams everywhere because it doesn't quite correlate with a CRT TV versus like a 4K TV, you know? Like, so you can see all the imperfections and things like that, like just weird.
They're crisper. They would have been blurred on a CRT.
Yeah, just weird like layer sorting on textures and stuff. So like background images like snap through stuff that is in the foreground and things like that. Just weird bugs like that. So it just, and the control scheme on Nintendo apparently is just absolutely horrific. Like, it's not really, like, the button configuration just is not intuitive like a normal modern FPS, because it was originally designed for the N64, right, on a single sort of stick, and it's not been converted over for Nintendo, but it has been converted quite well over to the Xbox apparently. Like, it's pretty decent on that. But
weird. Again,
licensing, weird issues. And Nintendo has online multiplayer, but the Xbox version doesn't. It's like the whole thing is a mess. It just doesn't. It feels like it should have been done better, basically. If you're going to do it properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dual analog stick support. Yeah. Native 16:9 resolution up to 4K Ultra HD where supported. And consistent refresh rate. Okay. So that's what they've done. So... yeah, but we've seen versions that have been in development that have been scrapped that have had textures redone and look really good, but that's got shelved. And it's okay because it's a licensing nightmare. Fair enough. Yeah, so you can play it through Rare Upgrade through Xbox Game Pass and through Nintendo. Interesting.
Bizarre.
So people are like back on it again because it's on these easily accessible things. That's so bizarre. So yeah, they're calling that a what are they calling it?
I don't think they're calling it anything. I think it's just a
HD
port.
remake.
Oh, HD.
But it is a port. But they've got the frame rate and the aspect ratio and the textures.
Sure.
But they've been up-res.
Really.
But they're the same. They still look bad.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
They're not new textures. It's not been retextured.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine for us, like, because we grew up with these games.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So we're looking at them. It's like, they look kind of blurry, but I can play this for an evening with my friends in split screen.
Yeah,
and we can have a good laugh about it.
Slappers only.
Like, oh my god, do you remember
DK mode, paintball mode. Yeah, love it.
Right, remember how good this used to be and stuff.
Stop cheating. Stop looking at where I am.
Jousting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That was the
Screen
rule.
stare.
Stop looking at where. Stop looking.
Yeah.
But like, I can't help it. Like I can see it right there. I see you're by the missile. Like I know that you're by the missile. Yeah.
Different times. So it's great for us, but for like the average modern gamer, they're just kind of like, this looks like ass. Like why are people playing this?
So that's cool. So that's like free if you like, because you don't have to pay for it. You just have to be subscribed.
No, it's fine.
So that's free. So that's fine. Last of Us. We talked about this in previous episodes. If you want to check out previous episodes of the show, we've talked in detail about how it's egregious and it's gross and it's money grabbing and it doesn't take that long to make the games and therefore it shouldn't be paid full price. As if it was a full development cycle, because it just isn't. So that extra money is just going in the pockets of the upper management and
publisher.
And then you got Dead Space, and that's a remake, so that's been remade, because the original was held together with duct tape. I think there was some game breaking bugs right up until the last minute, I think, in that game, and it wouldn't. So I think they had to remake it. There was no choice because it just wouldn't stand up to porting with HD stuff.
I mean, they have. That's the problem. I mean, inherently, my problem is with Dead Space is the same as what I've got with The Last of Us, which is they knocked it out in less than 3 years.
Yeah.
Cost them half the development time, and the game is full price.
Like,
yes. We're in this pocket now. We're in this bucket. Like, we will never get out of it again. This is the problem. To develop a remake like this, a lot of the problems are solved with remakes. This is the thing. This is what I'm trying to this is what I'm trying to put forward to people more than anything. The problems are already solved with everything. Like the vast majority of time in development on a game is designers and artists like trying to figure stuff out. Yeah. It's just like, all right, this bit is not working because of like the level design, like this, the way this flows doesn't feel great, like the mechanics of this don't feel great, things like that. And sometimes like they do have to, when they revisit games, they do have to do this.
Like with Mass Effect.
So
yeah, they fixed some things from Mass Effect 1 that they'd fixed by Mass Effect 3.
Well, even if they didn't, the thing is with Mass Effect, like you got all 3 games in one package.
Yeah.
So you were automatically getting every game for $20.
Yeah.
Like up-resed and better frame rate, all that sort of stuff. Like great. Yeah. You know, like that's a deal. That's good. Yeah. Like that's how it should be because the vast majority of the work is done.
Yeah.
But you look at games like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 remakes, like they are more reimaginings. So they do require a lot more time and they do require the resources to go into those things properly. Yeah. Because they have to reinvent mechanics, they have to reinvent like the way that the levels flow, new dialogue, everything is pretty much from scratch all over again. Like yeah, they have the bare bones basic, like this is the start, middle, and end. But beyond that, everything else is like made from scratch. Something like Dead Space, it's kind of like they've built this game on top of the original, basically.
Yeah, they knew exactly what the game needs to be. Apparently, there's a new like secret ending, which is kind of cool.
Sure, but how long is that going to take? Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, like when we first started doing this, like these HD remakes of stuff,
they were discounted.
So Shadow of the Colossus, one of the greatest remakes I've ever seen. Like to this day, it's still up there. Like highly praised, rightfully so. $40 on release. Ratchet and Clank on the PS4, which was a remake of the original PS2 game, $40 on release. Like we were on a good path. Like it was like this is cool. Like I really like this. Like this whole idea of like bringing new life into these things for a discounted price for less. But then we started seeing like whispers of stuff, right? So we started seeing things like The World Ends With You on Nintendo, which that game came out and that was full price. The original game was $30 and it came out at $60 on the Switch. And it's kind of like, that's kind of messed up. The fact that it's double the price of the original game, that's kind of nuts. And then PlayStation tried their hand in that for the first time with Demon Souls. Like they put out Demon Souls, and people argued like, there's a lot of work went into Demon Souls. I don't care. Like art teams are like a third of the production of a game, right? Like the vast majority of it is just people sat there trying to figure out the level layouts, like trying to figure out the balancing of bosses, what the bosses are going to look like generally, like how the game flows, things like this. This is the thing that takes time. This is the reason why a new AAA game, when it first comes out, it takes like 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Of just hardcore teams like just working on stuff, figuring stuff out. And that's why remakes can get done in a few years, because all those problems are solved.
Yeah.
I don't care how pretty it looks. I don't care how many new animations you add to The Last of Us. I don't care if if The Last of Us like put in something like, oh, you can now go prone in the original Last of Us game. Sweet. Can you do that in the remake? Nope. Because it's just art patches. Like they've just skinned it. They've reskinned it.
Yeah.
Well, they've added like all these new animations and stuff. It's like, no, they updated all the animations. They understood exactly how those scenes were going to go. Like it's not, they weren't solving anything. They were just making stuff look better.
Yeah.
Like that's the difference. That's why I just don't agree with $70 price tags. And when you see Dead Space come along and it's got like a deluxe edition for an extra $10 on top of like they're already asking for 70 when the original game was 60, and you can play the original Dead Space on Xbox right now. That's the thing, and it works great. It's fine. You can play it in 4K up-res at 60 FPS right now for free.
Yeah.
If you've got Xbox Ultimate.
Oh,
right?
I might do that.
Yeah, and I got platinum on that game. I love Dead Space.
I missed
amazing game.
I missed Dead Space. I felt the buzz from everyone at uni, because that was a game out. It was around uni time, wasn't it? So
it's an incredible game. I got
it's
just
buzz from it.
It still holds up to this day. It's an amazing game, and I am really looking forward to playing this remake. But I'm not gonna pay full price for it. I'm gonna wait for a sale. I just can't. I can't justify it.
It's weird. I'm on Instant Gaming, which must be something, and it's saying it's 23 and 22% off, but between the regular standard edition and the digital deluxe. So that's 54.44 for the standard, and 61.
That's UK pounds, though, right?
For UK pounds, yeah, 61.46. Digital deluxe edition. So the digital deluxe edition is 3 unique suits and 2 suit textures, and that's £7 that you're paying for that.
Yeah,
it's like £7 for 3 unique suits and 2 suit textures.
Yeah, and to be clear about all of this, like the game itself looks incredible. I know people personally that have worked on this game. Like it was made in Montreal, right? There's a bunch of people that jumped ship after what we were talking about before, after Watch Dogs Legion was finished. Like a bunch of people jumped ship to Motive and they went to work on this game. So like I genuinely know people
the
that
caliber.
work on this game. Yeah, and like it wasn't on their backs to like choose the price. Like it's like the work that's been done looks incredible. Don't get me wrong. Like the game looks really, really good. I really want to overemphasize that. But it's just the only problem I have is with the price. Like when you're offering like a deluxe edition for like an extra 20% of what the original was, it's like this feels a bit gross.
Yeah, it's weird, and also there's such a weird thing to put in the deluxe. It's like, how many people is that going to appeal to? Like, are they gonna? Is it worth it? Like, how much?
It's for the mega fans, right? And that's the thing that annoyed. Like I put out a thread about this on Twitter, and like a lot of people seem to agree with me. Then there's a couple of people that disagree, saying, "Well, it's for the people that have never played the game before," right? It's like, well, are those people buying the deluxe edition of the game? Because I doubt it. Because if they've never played the game before, they don't know if they're going to enjoy it yet.
And suits means nothing. It's just costumes. I mean,
yeah.
I'm all for
whatever. I mean, if you want to throw money into it, it's your money.
But I'm talking like 50p for a skin. It's like if you love the game, have the option to buy a skin and be like, hey, I like this game. Here's a tip, ding, and in return, I'll get a pink weapon, or a new suit. I probably shouldn't have used the word pink weapon. That's kind of misleading.
I don't know. There's a lot of people in Call of Duty with pink weapons.
Yeah.
Or lack of, I should say. Anyway, that's a diatribe of a joke. I'm not going down that hole.
You've gone down a hole.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Leave a comment and like it if you've been down a Call of Duty hole with a pink weapon. Anyway, yeah. What were we talking about? Skins. Yeah. Yeah, mate, that's the thing. Like, if you want to buy a skin, more power to you.
Yeah.
I don't care.
But don't have the special edition as that it's got some more things that you won't be able to get if you buy the standard edition. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just don't charge full price for this thing. Like, it just shouldn't. Like, if the original game took 6 years to make, and that was $60.
Well, they're saying
right?
that the RIP for this is $70 for the base game. $70 25p. £70 25p for the original, like the remaster.
Yeah.
And then £79 for the deluxe, before discount.
Yeah, because they want you to make that next step up, right? Like if you went back 2 months ago, though, it'll be quite that price. But the reason why they're doing that is because, like, oh, am I really just going to buy the original, or am I just going to take that next step up and go for the next one? You know, like that's probably why they're doing that. Yeah. Which it's business, like it's marketing, it's fine.
Yeah. But why can't it be like, play the game? If you liked it, give us a tip, and you get a skin. Yeah. That's how it should be. But people aren't.
Deluxe edition. I don't think I've ever bought a deluxe edition. The only special edition I've ever bought is from The Last Guardian. I bought like the collector's edition of that, but it came with a statue, for Christ's sake. So I'm like, it came with, like, I didn't care about the extra stuff. Yeah. It didn't come with any extra stuff in game. It came with an art book and a statue, and it just gave you the game. Like I like that stuff. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, extra. But that's an extra. This suits skins is not extras. Skins is skins.
Yeah. It depends on the skins, right? But I mean, look at Call of Duty. Like, again, going back to the pink gun thing, and not like being crass about it, but like if you're playing like Call of Duty World War II, for example, and you're running through the battlefield, like, yeah, this is super immersive. Like, look at this. This looks incredible. Like, and it really did. Like, at the time, it looked really, really good. It's like, it really feels like you're going through like the Battle of Normandy or whatever. You're running through the battlefield, and then like some soldier overtakes you, and he's wearing like a pink hat, and he's got like a pink golden gun, and it's just like, it just takes you out of that moment. You're like, ugh, gross. Like, it doesn't fit, you know. And Ubisoft are like terrible for this as well. Like, you're like Norse mythology and stuff. Like, you're on your, like, watching someone else play the game, and they're riding through the landscape of like medieval England on their unicorn, and you're like, wait a minute, what? Why have they got a unicorn? You know? Yeah. Oh, and it's on fire. Oh, like a flamey unicorn. Oh, okay. Like, what?
Yeah.
You know, so like, I don't know. I mean, people can play the game however the hell they like and stuff. If you want to pay extra for that stuff, then go for gold, I guess. It's your prerogative. But like, it's weird. It's just weird to me, like, that this game is $70. It should be $50 at least.
Yeah. Yep. So
I don't know.
We're in a weird space, and us old men in the gaming industry, we don't like it.
Old man shouts at cloud.
Old man shouts at cloud. Oh, I don't like it. Stop making money. Make less money and have more integrity, please.
It's less about, like, I don't want them to make less money. Like, obviously, like, business is business, but we're in that bucket now. Like, now that Sony has paved the way with things like Demon's Souls and The Last of Us Part 1.
It's going to be expected. Everyone's going to expect it to be.
Every single remake now,
it's going to be like
don't
a full
care who
price
it's
game.
from. It's going to be $7. It's going to be a full price game every single time, and it's because nobody made a stink about it.
The fans will pay for it because they're fans, and that's that. Yeah,
hand over fist. Yep, I guarantee you will get a Bloodborne remake at some point, and it'll be full price, and people will be like, "Yep, that's fine." And it's like, And what happens when we do get to that day where a remake comes out and it's not great? And you're like, I just paid full price for a remake, and everyone's going to be like, wait a minute, how did we get here?
Wait, didn't we get there with GTA, though, already?
No, because that came...
Oh, was that discounted?
That was... I think that was discounted, but I think it also came in a package.
Oh,
as well.
yeah,
I think
it was
like
three games. Oh, yeah, you're right.
So, like, that's, again, it's like the Mass Effect thing. Yeah. It's more of a remaster more than anything. It's not really a remake.
Yeah, it's true.
But but like we're in this hole with remakes now. That's it. Like this is not going to end. Basically, we're just going to get like the same set of games over and over again. As we go through this. The fact that Horizon Zero Dawn is getting a remake already is bananas, and that's going to be a full price game. I guarantee it. I will a full price remake of. Yeah,
because they've done Zero Dawn. Forbidden West, and they can just port over the good textures and stuff. Yeah,
why wouldn't you? Right?
Well, I wouldn't, because the other game is fine. It looks fine.
It's incredible. Like I played it a couple of years ago, like on the PlayStation 5. Looks incredible.
Yeah,
still looks great. Like just like some of the facial animations in the original Zero Dawn, like they cross the uncanny valley sometimes.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're making a remake of that, it's kind of like, how different is it going to look? You know, because it's not going to look at all different whatsoever. This should be an update. It should be like The Witcher 3. What CD Projekt Red just did with The Witcher 3. Like, they just updated it. Like, yeah, it's a patch. Oh, by the way, it's been completely updated. Like, everything looks great now, sort of thing.
But for me, with Horizon Forbidden West, there was Uncanny Valley in terms of the interaction between the characters. Like, there was that weird pause between when one person was speaking and the other person started to speak. There was that weird pause that was uncanny as well. Like, and that's in the latest game. So it's already it's not going to solve that Uncanny Valley problem.
Yeah, strange.
Companies making money.
Remakes confuse me, and it's obviously a personal thing. I'm not telling anyone else that they shouldn't buy it. Like, that's
We're not saying you're not a nice person for buying it.
Go buy Dead Space.
Go buy it.
If you've never played Dead Space,
I want to buy it.
If you've never played Dead Space, this is now the time to buy the remake.
I'm totally
that's actually a valid point, because if you've never played the original and stuff like that, and again, the remake has been made by the same company that published the original game. So if you're buying it for the first time, you've never played Dead Space, the remake is absolutely fine for you to buy right now. And that's fine. But if you're asking me to double dip as a fan, I'm not
that's
pay
different
for it. Screw that.
Well, yeah, it's like you started to play Mass Effect because you'd always wanted to, and it has always been on your back burner. But I'm guessing when the new ones come out, it's like, okay, it's got that status where it's like become legendary because it's survived enough to have a remake. Dead Space was always well received, was always talked about, and is now got that place in history because it's got a remake. Same with The Last of Us. Like, everyone, if you were one of the few people that hadn't played The Last of Us, you now know it's amazing because it's got a remake. So it's definitely has that place in history.
The Last of Us in particular is like, that is, people missed the reason for that. Like, I spoke about it at length to annoyance, and still nobody. I'm not saying I'm right about everything or anything, but Jesus, like, why did nobody realize what that game is for? Like, the HBO show comes out like a month after a remake. That's why it was remade.
Yeah,
it's because all the people watching the show
could
go and pick up a PlayStation.
Yeah. They're going to buy a PlayStation.
They're going to pick up The Last of Us Part 1 and be like, all right, let's see what this game's all about. Yeah. That's who it's for. Like, it's not for us. It's not for the people that played it before. Yeah. It's for those folks that are going to be like the many, many more millions of people that are going to watch the HBO show versus like the 20,000 gamers that played it.
And it's been working. I've seen people, like developers going, I've been sat here with my family and they are flabbergasted by watching this show. And they're like, is this the game you played? And they're like, yes. And they're like, this story is amazing. It's like, yes, this story is amazing. Now you get it. Now you understand why I've sat there in front of the TV with the controller and I'm crying. You know, you get it now.
No, just don't watch season 2. That's all, because you're going to cry a hell of a lot more. But yeah, it's that basically. Yeah. It's nuts to me that people sort of miss that. So it makes more sense with The Last of Us, but
yeah. Have you seen?
Still, it shouldn't have been full price.
Have you seen the HBO show, The Last of Us?
I have not. I haven't touched it yet. I'm going to wait until the series is done.
What? And then you're going to binge it?
I'm going to binge it. Wow. Watch it all.
Okay, I've seen the first episode.
I've heard it's incredible. And I've heard it's really, really good, and it breaks the barrier of what The Last of Us. And we'll do like a full episode on it when the season's done.
Yeah, okay.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
So I'm actually looking forward to it. Like, I really, really want to watch it. I'm at this point, like, where I don't have HBO at the moment, so I don't actually have access to it for one. So it's kind of, I'm waiting until I can sit down and watch it all properly and stuff.
Cool.
And I also don't like this new trend of, this is a digital season that's coming out online, but we're gonna like release one episode at a time so we can bleed money out of people so they stay subscribed for at least 2 months. I don't like this avenue that they've gone down. Did the same thing with Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings on Amazon. It's like, just release the season, yo. Like, I don't have that much time. Like, I'd much prefer to binge watch this in a weekend and enjoy it rather than like having to like, oh man, it's Friday. Like, okay, like,
and you forget
what was happening in the last episode.
Especially with creative people, like that. Especially dealing with narrative things like designing narrative. And I'm thinking about Rings of Power, I'll forget The Last of Us. Like, especially if you're doing multiple narratives, you're invested in.
I think it's just we're a different generation now. You know, that's the thing. Like, we consume one piece of content at a time rather than watch like multiple things in conjunction with each other.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's just the nature of like our generation, like millennials especially.
Yeah.
Like, we like to watch one thing at a time. Like, we'll watch a whole season or something and be like, all right, let's put that to bed for now, sort of thing. and then the next season will come out and be like, okay, I've got to rewatch the first season and watch the second one again. Like, there's a lot of people that do that, and they go through that cycle because they only like to do one thing at a time. It's like I only play one game at a time, pretty much, for the most part. Like, I jump between one or two at times.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, I don't jump between two like story-heavy games, for example, ever.
Yeah.
Like, it's always like I'm playing like Battlefield and something like The Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like one is mindless, one needs my attention.
Yeah. I'm doing High on Life,
shows are the same way,
which is like my throwaway narrative, and then I'm doing Plague Tale Requiem, which is my narrative thing. And oh my god,
good game,
so good, so awesome. Good. Like, I got into what I thought was the third act, and it just opens up. That's all I'm gonna say.
Nice.
It just opens up. I'm like, that's the theme of this sequel. Is it just blows my expectations out of the water. What I expect to happen in almost every way, musically, thematically, narratively, visually, location-wise. My expectations are just blown out the water every single time something new happens. I'm like, what?
Tiny man, AA studios are the future.
Yeah.
We need more of them because the AAA market is going down the hole right now. So
yeah.
Like, we can get.
And I'm like,
AA
why don't I
games
have these experiences playing a AAA game? Yeah, maybe that's it.
Because they care.
Maybe it's it. Maybe that is it. Like, my expectations when I'm playing a AAA game is to be amazed, is to be wowed. And when I see a cool visual, I'm like, oh, you're meeting my expectations. And then when I'm playing a AA game, which has kind of got janky like facial animations and some of the dialogue's
sure,
I'm like, oh my god, there's this huge, massive thing. Oh my god, I can't believe it. Like, how did you manage that? Maybe that's it.
Is interesting, isn't it?
Maybe that's it. Interesting.
Maybe.
I don't know, but yeah, you need to play that game. You need to play that game.
I know. I really do.
But I need to finish the first game as well. Yeah.
I think that's a good time to wrap it up. I've been going for like an hour and 15 minutes. So
okay.
We've gone over a little bit.
Okay.
I know you're editing though, so it's fine. I have to toil over the thumbnail, and it takes me fucking minutes. We will split this one day, I promise. When I've actually got like a decent setup again, and I'm not in a hotel room, that'd be great. But yeah, we'll definitely even the load, I promise. Like,
well,
I owe you.
You're paying for the Zoom, so that's fine.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I am Mr. Moneybags.
You're Mr. Moneybags. You're funding the passion project. You're the angel investor.
Indeed. All right. Yeah. Well, if you did enjoy this passion project from Mr. Moneybags over here, then please like and subscribe as always. If you are interested in the podcast in any way other than the visual sense, then you can find us on all your favorite podcast services. We're on Anchor, so we sort of spread out everywhere. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that sort of good stuff. Spotify. If you're into it, just search for Polygon Forest and you'll find us there. We also do another side podcast with our good friend Sam Webster called the Solo Dev Roundtable, where we talk about our indie games, or not Mr. No Longer an Indie
Mr. Publisher.
Mr. Publisher.
Yeah, we have to figure out how that's going to work. We have to figure that out.
Yeah, it won't be a problem.
It'll be fine.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
it'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if you're interested in any solo development or just indie game development in general, then go and check out that podcast. We just talk through what we've been working on and what we're due to be working on the following months and stuff like that. So really cool if you're into actual development itself. But yeah, other than that, Chris, where can people find you, sir?
So yeah, if you search for Acrylic Pixel, that's what I'm making Focus Find under at the moment. So you can find me on Twitter at Acrylic Pixel, on YouTube Acrylic Pixel. Patreon, I did use Patreon. I have to figure that out. But it's Acrylic Pixel, but you can't fund at the moment. But if you want to subscribe and follow the page, and then whatever I end up doing with that, okay, I'll figure that out. Or let me know. Tell me what you want to see. That'd be good. What about you? Where can we find your stuff?
If you search Hillthought Games, I'm floating around on a few different websites, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, stuff like that. But if you want to help me out, you can wishlist my game Long Gone on Steam. That is the main way to keep up to date. But yeah, Twitter is the main one that I'm sort of floating around on at the moment.
Also, wishlist Focus Find on Steam.
Yeah.
Because it is on Steam.
Absolutely should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still going to be under the same thing, so yeah, it'll all be there.
Yeah.
The publisher name might change at one point, but yeah, that's the only thing that's going to be different.
Cool.
But yeah, other than that, like tune in next week, like and subscribe, like I said, and we really appreciate it. And until then, we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.